One Battle After Another is the newest Paul Thomas Anderson feature about a former revolutionary who goes on the search for his daughter after an enemy from their past by the name of Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw returns to finish unfinished business from years ago. And that's really the most that I can say without spoilers, because fortunately and unfortunately, One Battle After Another is a complete shock to the senses that I believe everybody should go through at some point. Now, is it good? I think that remains to be seen, so let's kind of go into it a little bit. Now, One Battle After Another is truly a phenomenal movie from an acting and technical perspective. Everyone's performance, from Leo to Benicio, Regina, Tanea, Sean Penn, and Chase, are phenomenal. There is not a single poor performance that is to be found throughout the entirety of this movie. And cinematography, editing, music-wise, it's all masterful. The direction by Paul Thomas Anderson here is some of the best that it's been in years. And on top of that, the cinematography here by Michael Bauman is truly remarkable. The VistaVision that is used here creates some truly amazing images that truly deserve to be viewed and seen in an IMAX theater. And the score by Johnny Greenwood, while overbearing, is so amazing and fits the movie so well that even when it becomes overbearing, you can't help but get sucked into this world in a way that is truly elevative to the whole genre, whatever this film's genre may be, which we will get into. And the set pieces, the locations, everything from a technical perspective is truly phenomenal. And if you care about the art of filmmaking and the process necessary to create something truly wonderful and unique, this film is 100% for you. Unfortunately, that's where the objectiveness of the praise that I can give this movie ends, because what comes after is a little more complicated than that. You see, this movie is a deeply political one. It touches upon topics that are very prevalent in today's society in a way that really is just only one-sided. Now, that's not to say it's bad. You know, it's trying to make statements on certain topics that we see in the news: immigration, race relations, you know, and other such factors. And it touches upon it for the most part in a one-sided way, and that's really not the issue here, because you're allowed to make political statements and you're allowed to have a certain point of view. The issue here is that it only really touches upon them in a surface level type of manner. And there are times where it almost tries to look at it from another angle, but then quickly moves away. You know, like for example, near the beginning, we get an idea of why these revolutionaries and why these revolutionary fighters are doing what they're doing. You are sympathetic to their cause. You understand why they're breaking into an ICE immigration facility and freeing everybody. But the moment that you almost see the downside to this mindset, they just quickly move away. For example, a main character just straight up executes an unarmed security guard, or they're armed. It's never really explicitly shown. But point being, this is a situation where you actually see her cohorts see that this mindset can get innocent people killed. And it's a matter of if you think in this mindset for long enough, you wind up hurting people that have nothing to do with the cause. They almost go into that, but they quickly move away from it. And the same thing happens over and over and over again. You know, they go down this mindset with this one political view, and the moment that they kind of turn to the other direction, they quickly turn away, and then they just don't touch upon it again. And it's a little frustrating, too. And then there's the tone. You see, Paul Thomas Anderson is no stranger to a wonky and ridiculous tone. And this is no different. You have scenes that are truly compelling in terms of its familiar drama, about what are we willing to do to keep our children safe. Meanwhile, what is it that they're not seeing that we can't? And better yet, you have these more serious underlying tones of immigration. People that want to live in a world that's better for them rather than where they came from. And how, sort of an authoritarian figure can ruin any sort of true means of reform. There's such serious and graceful topics that are handled so gingerly that it's almost baffling when in either the same scene or following scene you have a character that goes, "I like fucking big black women. The jungle juice perforates throughout my loins." Like, it gets weird. And now we get into Sean Penn's character of Colonel J. Lockjaw. He is phenomenal. He is nefarious, sinister, pathetic, and deeply compelling. But the world that surrounds him as a character is not the same one that surrounds Leo's Bob or Chase's Wilford or Willow, whatever her name is. It's weird because you have this very grounded revolutionary fight that's going on with their characters, but with Sean Penn's Lockjaw character, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, there is a subplot that you don't see in the trailers, but you eventually see in the movie that is ridiculous. There's so much subtlety, and then there's so many things that are on the nose, and then there are things that are just so in your face that it's ridiculous. And with Colonel Lockjaw's character, look, I'm just gonna say this without giving away spoilers. The Christmas Adventure Club is such a ridiculous concept to be found within this subplot that it's sort of baffling, because you have something that's on the nose, you have something that's subtle, and then you have something that's just loud and in your face. And this movie doesn't really know how to juggle all of it. We talked about tones and genres earlier, about what exactly does this movie fall under. It kind of falls under everything. You have pretty well directed action sequences, so this could almost be an action movie, but then it's also funny with some ridiculous characters and moments. But at the same time, it's also a dramedy or crama. This movie's tone is all over the place, and it can never really find what it wants to be. And sort of like towards the finale, this winding and bumpy road, this movie just takes you on a journey that is so deeply immersive, but so deeply weird that you can't help but not look away. You can't look away. This movie forces you to watch itself because of how well executed it is on a technical perspective. It makes for a rather frustrating reflection. And there's a reason why it's taken me a couple days to actually make this review, because it's just a lot. This movie is a lot, and there's no real way to look at it and say, "Oh yeah, let's go, it's a masterpiece." And I don't understand how people can sit here, look at this movie, and immediately call it a masterpiece. Is it among some of the best stuff that PTA has done in years? Unquestionably so. This is easily up there with There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights. But at the same time, people are only praising this movie because it affirms some aspects of their beliefs without looking at the downsides to the overall narrative of the movie. And I do think that is something that people need to be able to do. They need to be able to separate the political aspects of this movie and actually take a look at it from the very real and artistic perspective. This movie is very deeply frustrating to watch because there are truly phenomenal political themes that it touches upon, but that's the thing, it only touches upon them. No matter what side you look at, it never really divulges itself in a meaningful way that is truly analytical. It just has surface level themes that are presented in a very, very cool and immersive fashion. And I wish that more was done. It's that its themes are surface levels, its characters, for the most part, are also somewhat one note and surface level. Despite the phenomenal performances that are here, a lot of it just feels very one note and surface level. Leonardo DiCaprio never really evolves more than, a Big Lebowski version of Liam Neeson's character from Taken. Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Even Benicio del Toro, who's phenomenal in this movie as a sort of Harriet Tubman version of the Mexican Underground Railroad, which is, I think, literally said one for one in this movie. He's really good, but his character just seems very surface level in one note, with no real layers of complexity. What's rather odd is that the two best characters in this movie are the ones with the most amount of complexity, and that is Lockjaw and Willa, i.e. Sean Penn and Chase Infinity. Their characters are so deeply complex and intriguing that anytime they share the screen together, your eyes are glued. There's so much complexity and fundamental differing themes that are found here that it's actually really, really fucking good. For example, there's this scene in the car where we actually get a little bit of history between Chase's character and Sean Penn's character. We actually see their differing views on certain things and how they clash with each other. We actually do get that political divide, that political difference and discussion that I think was really missing from this movie. And don't get me wrong, Lockjaw is a scumbag and a villain, but if he's able to at least back up his stances, it makes the messaging of the movie all the more prevalent because we see the negative side of it all. We understand why we should be rooting for these policies and for these themes, rather than just getting the surface level good guy side of it with none of the complexity or backside of it all. The consequences of having Lockjaw win is never really felt, but that does not make him any less dangerous, and that does not make his plight any more scummy and despicable. I really wish that this movie would have taken at least a couple more digs into the underbelly of this movie's themes, rather than just taking one scoop and going, see, there's complexity there. And it doesn't help that this movie is almost 3 hours long. Despite how fast it does feel in terms of its pacing, it doesn't feel fast in a good way, if that makes sense. But there's never scenes where it slogs or just kind of stops and you want to keep going. It does have a continuous pace, and it flows almost pretty well. I say almost because it's sort of a reverse Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a 4-hour movie that felt very closely to a 3-hour movie. This one is a little more on the reverse. This movie is an almost 3-hour movie that feels like a 4-hour movie. And it's odd because, like I said, this movie does flow at a rather good pace. It's just, it feels its length. And I don't really know how to describe it. I will say this. The final 10, maybe 15 minutes of this movie did not need to be there. You think you get resolution for one character, but then we revisit their arc, and then we get a resolution, even though the scene before, their resolution was pretty much solidified and well done. And the same goes for other characters too. We get what we think is their ending, their finale, and then the movie just keeps going, and then we get, I guess, an epilogue sort of resolution, which it really wasn't necessary. This movie could have easily had 10 minutes shaved off of it, and I think the same message could have been clear. But I've been digging on this movie a little bit, and so you must think that I don't like it. That cannot be further from the truth. I love this movie. I actually love it a lot. I think the statements it was trying to say, those surface level, really do create such an engaging discussion that I think we all must be having. In this world of where everything's so politically charged, it'd actually be nice for a movie like this to at least spark a discussion between both sides. Despite how surface level it is, I think this movie is 100% necessary. This is a movie you should go out and watch. You should engage in discussion. So that way, even if you disagree with this movie's political themes, you can at least engage in discussion with someone who believes them, and maybe you can see their side of things. I think that is a wonderful thing to do. And this movie does it pretty damn well. I saw so many people talking about politics the moment they left the theater in a rather civil fashion. And I love that. I think this movie has the capability to engage with these ideas. in ways that not many other political themed movies can actually do. Because at the end of the day, what this movie does well is that it doesn't take this grand political stance. You think it does, but like I said, there are moments where it sort of makes a right turn before just dropping it all together. It leaves you hanging, so that way you're forced to talk about it. It's rather ingenious in how frustrating it is at times. Overall, one of the reasons why this movie does so well in terms of engaging with its political themes is because it's a very on-the-ground sort of story. There's no big company or government official, with the exception of Lockjaw, that can kind of help guide you through all of these moral complexities. No, it's told from a civilian's perspective. And I think that's why this movie is working just as well as it is, because it is about regular people. And I think a personalized perspective is what helps this movie and its themes. No matter how frustrating they may be, you're still gravitating towards them because of how real it feels. And honestly, despite the bombastic tones that this movie switches through at a moment's notice, it still feels real. And that, I think, it just shows the immense talent that Paul Thomas Anderson has, not just as a writer, but as a director. This movie is truly phenomenal. Despite a lot of its misgivings at times, despite the weird tonal shifts, despite the surface level political themes, and despite its wonky pacing to the point where, you think you're watching a 5-hour epic, despite it only being realistically 2.5 hours long, this movie is a lot. And it's not a lot in a bad way. Frustrating, sure, but not bad. And I actually, can't believe I'm saying this, but like I said before, I think you should see this movie. I think you should see it right now on the biggest screen possible, because this movie deserves to be engaged with. Even if it's all surface level shit, it's at least handing the shovel to the audience to at least continue digging and exploring these ideas. It doesn't condemn you for believing certain things. It just simply shows a viewpoint and wishes for you to engage in it. That can be seen as frustratingly inciting, but I see it as a meaningful way to spark dialogue. And that's why I really do like this movie, because it's so easy to talk about it and it allows for very in-depth discussion. With that being said, let me give you my final verdict. Despite an uneven tone, rather wonky pacing, and surface level characters and dialogue, One Battle After Another still manages to excite and engage in discussions that normally we would not be having unless it was either watching the news or a catalyst through some sort of massive event. One Battle After Another is filled with stellar acting, amazing action, great dialogue for the most part, and engaging characters that, despite being surface level, you can't help but want to see their lives and stories unfold in a very meaningful fashion. And the heart of this film, through Chase Infinity, is nothing short of bright. I give One Battle After Another an 8 out of 10. Though deeply flawed by many measures, it is a must-see by every definition. I'm Noah Pfister. This has been the Movie Report. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. I'll catch you later.